So welcome in, you guys. I'm so excited to be here. We have been looking forward to this class for such a long time, and so many people have come to us asking us if we would do a class on this. And I think that you guys not only are going to learn so much tonight, but you're going to be excited about it. You're going to be excited about what you learn, and you're going to want to hit the ground running and start doing these. I wouldn't be surprised if you guys were working on these all weekend and trying to dive into other projects. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm excited to be here. So a few things first before we start. I'm just going to tell you who I am in case you don't already know. My name is Mandy Hall. I am the CEO here at Resin Rockers. What is Resin Rockers all about? We have several formulas of UV resin and epoxy resin, including a tumbler resin, which is what we're going to be working with tonight. And the reason that we developed all these formulas is because we weren't happy with what is out there in the market right now when I started. So we wanted to improve on all the pain points that not only I had, but everyone else that was trying to be a creator like I was having the same issues. And so we decided to go to market with a great selection of products that I think you guys are going to be really excited to use tonight. So we're known for education, we're known for quality, and we're known for our customer service, which tried and true. You guys know we are a 5-star company, and we will make sure that we continue to do that. So if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us, help@resinrockers.com, and we'll be happy to help you along the way. So what to expect from the class tonight? We are going to guide you through step by step the entire V-split tumbler. So the V-split tumbler is going to be this one right here. So we're going to guide you through that entire process, and then what we're going to do is I'm going to get you set up for the swirl, okay? And the reason we're not going to finish the swirl is because, as you can see, there's a lot of weeding detail. There's a lot of weeding detail in this tumbler, and it's going to be something really fun that you guys are going to be able to finish on your own. But I'm going to get you set up to where your template is applied to the tumbler, your vinyl is applied to the tumbler, you're going to be all set to go, and you're going to feel so comfortable doing this tumbler that you're going to be ready to do this tumbler. And like I said, if you have questions, we will be here to answer. So one thing I do want to note is you're going to learn everything from the basics. So if you've never done it before, you're going to learn all the basics. But I'm also going to be teaching you all of my hacks, all of my tips and tricks, and all of the best tools to use to complete these projects the very best that you can complete them. So you're going to get to walk away tonight with all of those fun things, which is awesome. To note, housekeeping things before we get started. Number one, safety first. I know we've sent out several emails for you guys, but I want to make sure that we are hammering that home. If you have a respirator, make sure you use it if you choose to. Nitrile gloves, proper apron, or some kind of protective clothing. We want to make sure that you're working in a well-ventilated room. Now that all of that has been said, let's dive into our projects. So we're going to get started with our V-split. I'm going to take you through that process. And then once we have the V-split to the point where it is ready for epoxy, we are going to switch over to our lovely swirl. All right? So we are going to unbox our kit first. That is the very first thing we're going to do, because if you're like me, you probably haven't even opened the box yet. So we're going to make sure that you know exactly what is in this kit and what we're going to be doing with it. All right. So we're going to change our view down here, and I want to show you what everything is and how we're going to be using it. So the first thing I want you to take out of your box are these pool noodles. Yes, they are pool noodles. These are going to be used as a guide and what we're going to keep our tumbler in place when we're putting our vinyl on. So the next thing I want to take out of the box is going to be our noodle cuffs, and I'm going to show you how to assemble the noodle cuffs to the noodle. That's the first thing that we're going to do. So take your first noodle cuff. You're going to take your noodle and you're just going to press it into one side of the noodle cuff like this and kind of move it toward the top a little bit. Then you're going to take the second noodle cuff and you're going to do the same exact thing on the bottom of that noodle like this. Take the second noodle and you're going to do the same exact thing on the other side so that they match. And just be gentle with them. Just kind of squeeze them into place. And when you're done, you want to make sure that they are straight like this and that they are even. So press them down a little bit and make sure they're a little bit even. The whole idea here is for you to be able to lay your tumbler here so that it's not rolling around on your table, and it kind of helps you line everything up when you're doing the template, which is the most important part of this project. So that's done and assembled. If you have questions, let us know. The second thing I want you to do is I want you to take your tumblers out of the boxes. Take your tumblers out of the boxes, take them out of the wrap. These templates were made and designed specifically for these tumblers. So that's the beauty of it, is there's no guesswork here at all. Inside your tumbler, there's going to be a sublimation sleeve and a little bumper for the bottom. I want you to take those and the lid and put them in the box to the side. So all you're left with is just the tumbler, and we're going to do that with both of them. We're going to take our second tumbler and we're going to set it aside because we're going to be working on that one in a little bit. Next up, you have some cups and a stirring stick. We're going to be using that for our epoxy, so you can set those aside. You will have 2-part epoxy, perfect finish. You're going to have A and you're going to have B. I want you to set both of those aside. Those are going to be the very last step in this process, but you are going to learn everything from start to finish. All right, next up, you're going to have a bag that has 2 templates in it that look like this. So I want you to take those out of that bag, and I'm going to show you both of those. So looking in the light, you're going to see that one has a V split right here. Okay, that's the one we're going to work with first. The one that has the little music notes on it, that's the one I want you to set aside for the second project. So go ahead and set that aside. That's for the other tumbler. Oh, and then last but not least, I forgot about my little pigment brush. We're gonna need that for sure. Okay, we're also going to take this sheet on the left, this one, and we are going to put it with the other template, the one with the music notes. So that one is going to be our second project. You also have a sheet of pinstripes. This is enough pinstripes to do both tumblers. So we are going to set those aside because that is the last step that we are going to do before we seal our tumbler and get it ready for epoxy. So just go ahead and set that aside. All right, so we've got our tumbler. We're going to figure out how we're going to put our template on. Now there are a couple ways that you can do it. This is a really fun design because you can do it right side up, or you can do it upside down. So it just depends on what you're looking to do, what style you want to do. Lots of different color options. We're going to go through different supplies and how to use those. I think you guys are going to really enjoy that part. So what we are going to do is we are going to do it to where the vinyl comes from the opening. So we're going to put our V at the top, just so that you guys aren't confused. So that's the way that we are going to be doing it. So what I want you to do is I want you to look at your vinyl, and I want you to see that the point right here is on the bottom, okay? So that is going to be in the center of our cup when we do it. So it's going to be right here, this part, and then the bottom one's gonna go down here. So what we're gonna do first before we do anything is a little hack that a little birdie told me that was incredible. We are going to take our weeding tool. So if you have a weeding tool that is a push pin, those are the ones that I prefer. That was in the supply list. If you have a regular weeding tool, you can use that too. It's whatever you have. We're gonna make use of whatever you have. So what I want you to do is I want you to take your weeding tool and you're going to lightly press into this blue film right here, okay? You're going to peel it back about 1.5 to 2 inches. I want you to take a pair of scissors and you're going to cut along that little crease or right above it. And we are going to leave this intact just a tiny bit at the end. And then what I want you to do is lay that back down. We're gonna lay it right back down. So you're gonna cut all the way across, and then you're gonna lay it back down. And what this is gonna allow us to do is to line up that tumbler just right. We're gonna line it up just right. So this is gonna be my example to show you guys here. You can see the seam right here, all the way down. what we want to achieve here is we want the points to match up perfectly like this. Now, I do want to say that if this is the first time you've ever done a template tumbler, it's not going to be perfect, because I remember when I was starting these and it was really hard to line up, and you need to be patient and realize that, hey, you know what, this is your first tumbler. It may take a dozen tumblers for you to get this down, and that's okay, but you have to start somewhere. So I'm going to show you how I do it, and you may find a way that it works best for you, but I'm going to show you how I learned and how I do it, and that seems to line up perfect for me. Okay, so now what I want you to do is we are going to practice putting our template on our tumbler. So we want, on the left usually is where I will put the opening. And then what I do is where I've cut that slit, I put it right at the top here, okay? So if you take your template and you wrap it around your tumbler like this, what I usually do is I bring my noodle over and I try to squeeze that template together, and I want it to perfectly match up right here. So I'm going to hold this up for you guys so you can see. You want those points to match up in that seam just right where those cuts are, okay? Now I usually leave a tiny bit of space at the top right here and a tiny bit of space at the bottom. So essentially you are going to be making this dead center if you can. You want it to be dead center. So you're going to push until that seam meets, and you want it to be perfect. Once you feel like you're holding it very tight and it feels really good, what I want you to do is I want you to hold it with your forefinger and your thumb, and I want you to peel this little flap back that we cut, okay? So now what we're going to do is we're going to peel that little piece that we cut while we're still holding it. We're still holding it here, and we're still holding it here. And we're going to peel that. I'm going to switch hands, and I'm going to peel it all the way across. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my two forefingers and I'm going to push all the way in the middle here. And then I'm going to hold it with my forefinger, and I'm going to take my thumb and I'm going to press it all the way down from the left and all the way down from the right. And what that's going to do is it's going to position that wrap perfectly all the way down that tumbler, so that when we take the rest of that blue film off, it's going to line up perfectly. So now what I want you to do is I want you to take it out so that it opens up like this, and we're going to flip this back a little bit, and I want you to loosen that blue film. So you're going to pull that blue film up. You're going to do it from both sides so you don't leave any on there, okay? So you're going to pull that blue film up, and little bit at a time. I want you just a little bit at a time. This is where I want you to take your time, because this is the most important part of putting this template on. It has to be straight, and it's easy to wrinkle up, so if you follow this process, you're not going to have any problem at all. So we're going to peel that blue film back a little bit, and we're going to use our thumbs, and we're going to push up a little and out all the way across. Turn your tumbler a little bit, push up and across. And you're going to apply a lot of pressure while you're doing this, and you're going to not have any bubbles by following this method. So we're going to unpeel a little, turn your tumbler, push and press out. Push and press out. And we're going to do that all the way until we are out of blue film and we've taken that blue film off. Peel and press. And this is the best way to make sure that that seam lines up. And if your seam doesn't line up, that's okay. That is okay. This is handmade, and you will learn how to do it with practice. I wasn't able to line it up my first time, believe me, or my second time, or my third time. But once you get it down, it is so much fun to make these. You just want to take your time during this process. And we're going to do this again with our other templates. So you're going to have practice with at least 2 templates. So after we get this on, I want to know in the chat how you guys did. Tell me how your seams line up. So now this, when I've got this last little flap here, right here, this is how you're going to tell if you've got it right. So we're going to push up and we're going to go over just like that. And you can see your seam right here, and you can see that the points line up, these 2 points, which is exactly what you want. So that's how we know that we've got that, which is great. So hopefully you guys have done that, and you can do it either way. It doesn't matter how you do it. It's totally up to you. Like I said, this one's really nice because there's not a lot of thought that goes into lining it up with the vinyl. You can go in, if you do it from this side, you can do the vinyl this way. If you go this way, you can do the vinyl from the top. It's all up to you on how you want to do it, and that's why I love this template and I love this vinyl, because it's so forgiving, especially for a beginner. So, all right, so for mine, I am actually going to go in with my vinyl from the top. So this is the piece that's one solid piece all the way across. So one solid piece all the way across if you're going in from the top, which is what I prefer to do. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take our weeding tool and we're going to actually remove this piece from the adhesive, and then we're going to remove the adhesive because we don't want to put our vinyl down onto that adhesive because it's going to be really hard to maneuver. The nice thing about this vinyl is it is removable. So you'll find that you might have a bubble underneath it, or you know, it takes a few times to line it up. I usually get it in 3 to 4 tries. A couple times I've gotten it on the first or second try, but most of the time it's hard to line up initially. So it's very, very easy to work with, and that's what we want. So I'm going to take my weeding tool and I'm going to pick up the white part of this paper right here, okay? And we are going to take that entire white part off. And you're going to be left with a very sticky adhesive. And we are actually going to remove that adhesive, and I'm going to show you how. So in your supply lists, you were asked to have an X-Acto knife. So we are going to use our X-Acto knife, and we are going to remove this sticky adhesive from the tumbler now before we place our vinyl down. So the way that I typically do this is I start from the top and I make sure that I have a sharp X-Acto knife, because otherwise it's going to be a little bit of a struggle for you. And then I'm going to cut right along the seam of the paper. So slow and steady wins the race on this one. We're going to take our time and we are going to slice right against this white seam right here. So you're just going to keep cutting until you get all of it removed. You're just going to cut all the way around. And this is why a sharper X-Acto knife really comes in handy, guys, because it's going to make this job so much faster for you. And good lighting is key here as well, because it is hard to tell where the tumbler meets that piece of paper. We're going to go all the way down to the V-split, and then we're going to do the exact same thing on the other side. So right along that edge. And just try not to get that stripe if you can. Try not to cut over the stripe. Try to get it as close as you can to that paper. So I've cut from here to here, and then I cut from here to here. So all of that has been cut. So now what I want you to do is I want you to take your X-Acto knife, and I want you to go up where this little point is right here and go underneath that adhesive right there. I'm just gonna go right under it. And you're gonna peel it up a little bit, and we're gonna start peeling it right back. And you're gonna peel it all the way off. And you're gonna do that all the way around. Sometimes it'll come off in one piece, sometimes it won't. But we're just gonna peel it off like a piece of tape. It's pretty easy to remove. If you have a sharp X-Acto knife, which I've tried with a dull one. It doesn't work so well, guys. Doesn't work. So now we have a nice, clean, non-sticky tumbler all the way around. If you see that you have a little bit of adhesive right here, go ahead and take care of that now. I would just grab a little piece of paper towel and make sure your vinyl is out of the way so that it does not get on the vinyl. I take alcohol spray. I'm just going to spray a tiny bit on this paper towel, and I'm just going to gently go over that adhesive, and just it comes right off. We want a clean slate when it comes to putting this vinyl down. Perfect. Okay. All right, so now that we have that done, all right, so now what I want you to do is I want you to take your tumbler, and we're gonna set it to the side because now we're going to be working with this vinyl. And you can choose to do this part without transfer tape or with transfer tape. If you have transfer tape, I recommend it. It does make it a little bit easier. It's completely up to you with what you have on hand. So what I'm going to do is I have this nice big roll of transfer tape. This is my favorite transfer tape. But this is the only transfer tape that I use, I like. Okay, so you're going to take your vinyl, and what I want you to do is I want you to line it up with this seam right here, okay? Right here. So you're gonna take your little triangle, and it's gonna go right against this seam. And if you have a burnishing tool, great. What I usually do is I will put it right up against there, and then I will kind of burnish it a little bit just to make sure that I don't have any bubbles. And then what you're going to do is cut right along here. And then you're going to be left with your vinyl here. Now what I want you to do is I want you to peel off the backing of the vinyl so that all you're left with is this vinyl sheet, okay? But there's one thing I want you to do first, which this has helped me tremendously when I was trying to line this up. So when you're looking at your tumbler and you have your little point down here at the bottom, and my V-split's gonna be going in from the top to the bottom. The easiest way for me when I'm lining this up is to start with the left side here. So we're gonna start from the left side here. So this point right here is gonna go here, and we're gonna go down the side. So what I usually do is I will trim along here. So I will remove this, and I'll trim this transfer tape right along the edge, because what it's going to do is it's going to give you a better visual of whether or not you're actually lining it up where it needs to be lined up. And you'll see exactly what I mean once we start to put this on the tumbler. So you're going to cut right along this edge here. All right, so if you didn't cut that, this is the view that you would have. And you can see how opaque that is, and it's really hard. It's like looking through blurry glasses, trying to see where the lines are that you need to line that up, which is why I wanted you to trim this here to make it a little bit easier. So you're gonna peel this back, okay? and you're going to line this up with the point here. You're going to line it up with the point here, but not just at the point. You want to make sure that it goes along the edge of your stripe. Now, if you notice, and I'm going to show you how to remove it and redo it, because everybody, I know you guys are going to go through this because I've gone through it several times. So if you get down, you're putting it down and you realize there's a huge gap here, what I want you to do is pull it up just like that. You can see it's super easy to remove, and you're going to try it again. This time, if you're struggling this time, what I want you to do is I want you to try to line it up further. So you're going to try to line it up even further down the tumbler. So you're going to start at that corner, and you're going to go right along that stripe, trying to stay close to it. Now, if you have gaps, even just little gaps, don't worry, because that's why we're using pinstripes on this tumbler. We're going to be using pinstripes because it hides imperfections. And we want to make sure we don't have bubbles. So if you have the burnishing tool, now is your chance to use it. And you're going to go all the way across, just like this. Okay. So you can see that my point is down here where these other points are, and I'm going to take my transfer tape off. Perfect. And you can see that the point is right here at the top, all the way down to the bottom. So it's lined up perfect. And like I said, if you happen to see any little gaps, like that's a little tiny bit there, maybe like a tiny bit here, but for the most part, this is gonna line up perfect. And we're going to be using pinstripes anyway, so don't beat yourself up too much if you're worried about imperfections, because 9 times out of 10, you're the only one that's going to see them. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. Okay, guys. How are we doing? Because that was the hardest part. You have gotten through the hardest part of this entire process, so congratulations on that. Now we get to do more of the fun stuff, so this is going to be fun. So now what I want you to do is I want you to start thinking about what colors you want to use, because you're going to need 3 colors to finish your tumbler. You're going to need one for the little fine stripes here. You're going to need one for the middle stripe. I'll show you on this tumbler. This will be better if I can show you. So you're going to need one color here, one color here, and one color here. Now, before we start getting into the differences between the Stardust and the glitter, I want to make sure that you guys understand what the outcome will be. So the reason that we wanted you to have both is because I want to teach you the different textures and looks to each of them, because they are completely different. So the way that the Stardust works, and that's what you got in your kit, is the Stardust. The Stardust is very, very fine. So it's almost like a chalk texture. So with that, I prefer to do more of the fine details. So when you're working on a tumbler that has a lot of fine details like this one does, the Stardust is great because you can use it with the pigment brush and lay it down in these little precise places, and it's perfect. It looks perfect. It's great. But if you're putting it on a bigger surface, a bigger area surface like this, this is what it's going to look like. It's going to give you like a micro suede kind of look. So it's going to have more of a texture. It's really pretty. It's really cool. It's different. So if you're one that likes dimension, likes texture, that's what the look you're going to get if you're using the Stardust. If you're using the glitter, it's a completely different look. So this is an example of the microfine glitter, and what we did was we just worked it into the adhesive, and this is the outcome you're going to get. So you're going to see a lot more even color. It's going to be very shimmery. It's going to be very loud, very bright. It's not going to have this texture to it, which is really cool. And when I say texture, I mean the look of texture. It's not going to feel textured. It's just going to look textured. But as you can see the difference between these two, the purple also is Stardust, but you can't see the texture in the purple. That's why Stardust is so great for those fine lines and fine detail. And I prefer the glitter on the bigger sections because, well, I like sparkle. So I'm not gonna get away from the sparkle too much. So that's the difference between your glitter and your Stardust. So another thing that you can do with your Stardust that's great. So if you don't want to use the Stardust on the tumbler tonight, you don't have to. We just put it in there in case you want to use it. But you can also use it on pens. It's really great on pens if you're doing templates and if you're doing smaller detail like these. The Stardust is going to be great because it's, like I said, it works great on those tiny little templates. So keep that in mind if you are going to be using it because it's great. It's great to work with. All right, so we've got our example here. I'm going to put that to the side and we're going to get back to our beautiful tumbler. Okay, so I'm going to show you the color combinations that I'm going to use for my tumbler. You can choose whatever color combination suits you because remember, this is your tumbler. This is your creation. You're going to get to share this with whoever you want to, and you may not share it. You may want it for yourself, which rightfully so, because this is a lot of work. Okay, so the colors that I'm going to use on my tumbler. To complement the blue here, we're using Judy in Disguise. Judy in Disguise is a microfine glitter, and it's a mix of blues. So it's got a lot of dimension, and it's very, very pretty. That's going to make my flower pop really, really well. So this is going to go in the middle section of my tumbler. So where this one has the gray, that's where I'm going to be putting my blue. We're using the Red Wine Supernova. This is Stardust. Because this is a finer line, I want that detail. I want to be able to use the brush to brush that in. So we're going to use the Red Wine Supernova Stardust. And last but not least, for the biggest portion of my tumbler here, I'm going to be using Champagne Night, which is a gold microfine glitter. This one is really going to bring out the composition back here, and this part of the music notes is it's almost like a creamish goldish color. So it's really gonna make that pop, and that's why we chose this color combo. So go ahead and get your glitter and your Stardust ready, and we will do this together. All right, so you're going to need your weeding tool for this part, just like we did with the bigger section that we had here. So what I like to do if I'm using Stardust, if you guys choose to just do Stardust, always work with the darker color first and then move your way to the lighter color. That it gives you less chance of cross-contamination with the colors, and it's very forgiving if you do it that way. With glitter, it doesn't really matter so much. We are going to be sealing this tumbler with some Rust-Oleum spray paint. So if you have a Rust-Oleum spray paint, acrylic sealer, any kind of sealant will work. And that's what you're gonna do if you're gonna use glitter. So with the Stardust, you don't have to seal it. If you're just using Stardust, don't need to seal it, but we are doing pinstripes, and you do need to seal those because you want your pinstripes to stay put and not lift. So that's why we're gonna make sure that we seal this before we epoxy. All right, so I'm going to start with my Stardust. So my Stardust, the Red Wine Supernova, is going to be used right here on these two stripes. So what I'm gonna do is take my weeding tool, and I'm going to remove these stripes all the way around the tumbler. And because we're doing these in the same color, I'm going to do it on the top and the bottom. If you choose to do your stripes in a different color, then you need to do one at a time. So I'm going to take both of those off, and you can see that my seams line up just right, which is exactly what you want. Okay, so now I'm going to take my Stardust. We're going to set our tumbler aside for a second. And I'm going to open it up, and you have a pigment brush. This is a specific pigment brush that was designed just for Stardust. It is only for using templates, any additive that you're using for templates. So it's not a makeup brush. A lot of people use makeup brushes out there. They don't last as long. The fibers are very different. They have different strength to them. These were tested on artists to make sure that you're going to get the best results. So this is going to be your best friend if you're using Stardust tonight. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to open up our Stardust. And what I want you to do is, I want you to just put a paper towel down because it is a little bit dusty and it's going to prevent you from doing so much cleanup when you're done. All right, so now I am going to take my Stardust, take my template brush. We're going to dip it in the Stardust, and I usually tap it a little bit so I don't have too much. And we're just going to slowly work it into that adhesive. And we're going to go all the way around top and bottom, and I usually work in a circular motion because that is how I know that it's going to give me the best results. Now, you'll know that you lined your seam up just right if you put your Stardust on and you don't see any gap between the two sides. However, if you do see a gap, I'm going to show you a hack to get rid of it. So hang tight. So we're going to go ahead and work this in. And I usually will do one side at a time. Start up here at the top, and looky there. See that little spot right there? Where the seam meets, I'm going to show you how to squash it. This is a beautiful color. This complements this tumbler so well. And I'm very excited to see it up against the Judy in Disguise in the Champagne Night. So this is the process that you're going to follow: weeding and then dusting. And you are going to learn tonight the differences between putting on the Stardust and putting on the glitter and what they look like when you're done, because it is totally different. The look is totally different. The feel is totally different. The main difference though for you when it comes to work is that the Stardust does not have to be sealed, like I said. So that's why it's so great on pens, because when you're doing your pen templates, you can just put them on the pen and UV resin it and you're done. Whereas if you're using glitter on a pen template, you're gonna have to spray it with some kind of acrylic sealer to get that glitter to stay where it should. So Stardust on smaller areas, glitter everywhere else. Now if you're using Stardust for this part, you can use the Danger Zone is really good right here. The purple is really good right here. So whatever you choose, I'm sure is going to look good. All right, so we are working our way up to this seam and we are so close to being done here. All right, so I've made it all the way around the perimeter of the tumbler. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go over it one more time just to make sure that I didn't miss anywhere. I don't want my other glitter colors to contaminate this red wine. So I'm just going to make sure that it's worked in really, really well. Give it a once over. That way I feel good about it. And I usually push the Stardust from the side and just work it right back into that adhesive. And it goes on so easy. It's so easy to work with. All right, so now that I have my Stardust on, I'm going to go ahead and close that up. And one thing that I like to use to clean my brushes, this is going to be a commonly asked question. You can just go over your garbage can or wherever and just flick your brush like this if you want to clean it. Another great way to clean it is canned air. So similar to a mini compressor, if you have a mini compressor, the canned air works great. And I will usually just blow air into my brush and it's perfect. So that's one thing to invest in if you plan on doing a lot of these, because it's going to speed up your time by quite a bit. So you're going to have some excess Stardust on your tumbler now, and I'm going to show you how to get rid of it the easiest way. So what I want you to do is, first, let me check this seam right here before I get rid of this extra Stardust here. So if you have the little white part of the seam right here, there's one thing I want you to do to check it, to see if you need to use the hack that I'm about to show you to fix it. But sometimes there's just a little tiny overlap of vinyl, and that's what I'm thinking this is. So I'm going to actually peel this back, and I'm going to take the Stardust and I'm going to go right on top. And yep, I was right. That's exactly what it was. Just a tiny little piece of vinyl that I needed to pull up to access that adhesive. And then I'm going to lay it right back down so that I don't get the red wine in there, in that little area. Okay, so if that's the problem for you, you have a little bit there, a little gap there, but you don't have a little overlap with the vinyl. The best way to fix that is with a tiny bit of tack-it. So you can take a little tiny bit of tack-it. I usually take like half of a pea-sized amount and I'll put it on my mat. Pick up just the tiniest little bit with your finger, and you're going to go right over that seam very, very slowly, just tap it. And you're gonna let that dry for about 2 minutes. Then you're gonna go back with your Stardust, you're going to pick it up and you're just gonna tap it on. Don't rub it in the circles because you don't want any tack-it in your brush. You're just gonna take that Stardust and you're gonna tap it into that tack-it, and it's literally gonna disappear. Now, that does not work with glitter. Glitter is not that forgiving. So that's why I like to use pinstripes to hide everything, because the tack-it, it will show a little bit, and that's not a look that you want. So we want to try to make it as seamless as we can possibly get it. All right, so now what we're gonna do to get rid of the rest of this is I'm gonna take my glitter dusting brush. This is literally my favorite brush to get rid of all the excess glitter, excess Stardust, because it works very, very well. So we're just gonna start at the top here, and we are going to push all the way down. I usually do this over a trash can, but I'm literally glittering up my workstation just for you guys. So you're going to just go in a downward motion, and I'm trying to keep that adhesive on, but it is not working with me, and that's all right. You are going to do this until you feel that you have all of it off. And don't forget the bottom, because it will accumulate down there too. Okay, so let's take a look at our tumbler. It's looking pretty great.
Beautiful.
So this is the stripe, and like I was telling you guys, even if you have a tiny little gap here, we're gonna fix that, so don't stress. So I'm gonna do a little bit of cleanup. It's really important to keep your workstation as clean as you can so that you don't contaminate with one glitter to another. So one of my favorite tools is one of these ginormous lint rollers. This thing is amazing. It will pretty much clean up any of your glitter, and I'll put it in the supply list email tomorrow as well, so that you guys know where to find it. But the cool thing about this one is it also will clean up big pieces of glitter and little chunks of resin and everything else. So I use it a lot. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the middle portion of our V-split. So this right here. And we have decided to use Judy in Disguise microfine glitter for this, and the reason we picked this is because we really want to pull out the flower. The flower is kind of the focal point. That's the star of the show. So we don't want to overwhelm the tumbler by doing all of this in blue. We just want to make it pop. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take the lid off of my glitter, and we are going to remove this entire stripe, and we're going to work the glitter in that way. So what I typically like to do so that I can recycle my glitter is I grab a piece of butcher paper. You can use butcher paper, you can use regular paper, you can use sandwich paper, which is what I'm using. This is my last piece. I'm so sad. I'm gonna have to order more because I just use it so much. But whatever you have laying around to catch the glitter so you can recycle it. I use file folders a lot too if I'm doing multiple colors at once, because you can just put them right back into the bottle, super easy. So we're going to go ahead and weed this. So you're going to start at one side, you're going to use your weeding tool, and you're going to pull up here, and we are just going to remove this entire V. Just like that. Now you can see where my little seam was here, which is okay. I'm just going to kind of move that adhesive around a little bit. To get it to stick really well. Okay, so now what I want to do is I'm going to take my Judy in Disguise, and we're just going to use our finger, and we're going to gently put some of this glitter right on top of that V. And a little bit goes a long way, so try to be gentle. I'm going to use my finger, and I'm going to slowly work that glitter into the tumbler. And this is the process that we're going to use. I usually try to go in a circular motion. The whole name of the game here is to get it worked in the best that you can get it worked in. So I would usually spread it down and then work it in. Don't worry too much about the red wine supernova. Like I said, that is there to stay, so you're not going to have to worry too much about it. That's the beauty of Stardust, is it is there. It is there to stay. Now, if you want to have the glittered, textured look, you're not going to want to keep working it in and working it in and working it in. The more you work it in, you're going to get this shine to it. Let me show you what that looks like when you're done. So this is what it looks like when you actually get all of that worked in a circular motion. It's almost like polishing it in. This is the look that you're going to get. If you don't want that and you just want the more textured look, you're just going to dump it on and kind of tap it in. So it just depends on the look that you want on your tumbler. And you're going to do this all the way around. This is the perfect color of blue for this. It works so well. It's just enough for that flower. So when you're doing the circular motion that I was talking about, that method, when you're doing that, you know, and you're working it in, you want to be mindful of the type of glitter that you're using too, because I feel like if you're using something that has a color shift to it, or it's like a pearlescent glitter, or it's holographic, that's when you really want to use that circular motion and work it in, because you're going to get the best benefit that way. All right, so once you feel like you've got your glitter on and you've worked it into that adhesive, beautiful. This is what it's looking like so far. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to take our glitter dusting brush and we're going to brush the excess glitter off, just like this. And you're gonna do it all the way around. And then I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of even mine out. So pretty, so pretty. All right, once you have that glitter done, we're going to do the same process with the bigger section. So now I'm gonna take my glitter And I'm going to put it back into my jar. I'm going to put the lid on and clean that excess glitter up so that I don't have any cross-contamination. And we're going to move on to the gold. All right, so now we're going to peel both of these sections off since we will be doing these both in the same color. And then we're going to follow that same process, guys. We're just going to dust and work it in, or don't work it in. Totally up to you guys. This is your tumbler, not mine. So I chose Champagne Night for the bigger part of this tumbler, so that's what we're doing next. Now for this one, I am just gently brushing this along because I really want as much sparkle as I can get on here. So I'm just gonna slowly brush it into this adhesive so that I have this really nice cohesive sparkle all the way across that big section. So we're just gonna kind of tap that on and work it in. You can see how pretty it is. It's coming along so nice. And you'll notice too that the glitter really helps with that seam. So if you're worried about your seam, don't worry. As long as you can get that adhesive to be blocked while you're doing this, you're gonna be fine. We're rounding the finish line, guys. All right, one last corner. Then we're going to make sure that we got everywhere, that we're not missing anything. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna lightly brush all the way from the top to the bottom to get rid of any of that excess glitter that I just added. Perfect. And then we're gonna use our glitter dusting brush. And we're gonna do the same thing. We're just gonna add a little bit more pressure. And we're gonna dust that glitter down, and you can see how beautiful that looks. So pretty, so pretty. I love this color combination. All right, so we're gonna set this aside for a second. I'm gonna recycle my glitter. And then before I clean my space up here, I'm gonna check my tumbler one more time and make sure that I'm not missing anything, because before we start to apply these pinstripes, it's really important to make sure that you don't have a ton of excess glitter on there, because if you do, the pinstripes aren't going to lay flat. They're going to peel up a little bit. It's going to be harder to seal them down. While I have lots of hacks to fix that problem, we definitely want to be proactive and try to prevent it. So I'm gonna move my dust-free, glitter-free tumbler to the side while I clean up my space, just to make sure that I'm not adding any glitter that doesn't need to be there. You wanna try to get your workspace to be as clean as you can before we move on to the next step. So if that takes you a minute or two, please do it. Okay, so I have kind of dusted my workspace, gotten rid of any of the glitter here. I'm going to spray this with alcohol now just to make sure that it is glitter free. So we are going to spray this with some alcohol spray. If you have a baby wipe, great. Use it now, or you can use a shop towel. Shop towels, literally, I buy by the box and the case, because these blue shop towels are so easy to clean up with, and they're very, very minimal lint. Every other paper towel that I've found leaves a lot of lint, and there's nothing worse than doing a tumbler like this, and it's so pretty and so beautiful, and then you get the epoxy on and you've got this piece of lint that just ruins the whole thing. So we're gonna prevent that. So we wanna make sure that our workstation is nice and clean. The next thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make sure that my hands are clean. So if you want to take a minute and run to the bathroom, wash your hands, I'm not going to leave you guys in the dust, so I'm just going to use a baby wipe, and I'm going to wipe my hands to get rid of any of that excess glitter, and then I'm going to make sure that they're nice and dry for the application of these pinstripes. So we are going to use the noodle for this. This noodle is going to be our friend, just to give you a little bit of an easier way to get these pinstripes on. So I want you to go ahead and get your pinstripes right here. So when we're doing our pinstripes, I just want to show you what I mean by pinstripes, just in case you don't know. So this tumbler already has the pinstripes on them. You can see. And it hides any imperfections, any seams that or gaps. That is what we are going to hide with the pinstripes. So for example, you can see on my tumbler right here, I have a little seam right here, and I want to hide it. Now you have a couple options that I can show you. The first option is to pinstripe just the outline of the V. So this V right here, where the purple is, you can just do one pinstripe on both sides from top to bottom, and it will kind of make this piece right here go together. It looks more like one piece. If you decide to do more detail and you want to do pinstripes everywhere, then what we're going to do is we're going to do pinstripes all the way down on both sides, and we're going to actually separate out these colors like this. So you can do it four-way here. Let's go ahead and get started with our pinstripes. So I want you to turn your tumbler to the top of where your vinyl meets the top of your tumbler. Now, if you notice that there's a little bit, you can see right here, where it gets a little bit more narrow right here toward the top of the tumbler, what I'm going to do is I am going to just trim that just a tiny bit with my X-Acto knife, because I know that is a tool that you guys all have. And we're just going to peel that up. Now, if you want an easier way to do it so that it's nice and even all the way across, I have a hack for you, because I have a really hard time getting this to be even. Every time I do it, I just can't get it. So we have this little thing, it's called a fabric cutter, and what you do is you put a razor blade in here, you can adjust the height levels of your vinyl, and what you're going to do is you're going to lay your tumbler down, and I know some of you already have this because a lot of the kids had this when you guys ordered. But what you'll do is you'll put your tumbler up against it, and then when it's against the blade, you're going to rotate your tumbler against the blade, and what happens is you're going to get this nice even cut all the way around, so it matches. The whole tumbler is going to match like that. So that is one hack that you guys can use. All right, so I'm going to apply my pinstripes now, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the outside and the inside. So if you guys want to go the extra mile and you want to go in between, you can definitely do that. Please feel free. This is your tumbler. You can do it however you want. But for the sake of time, we are going to do the outside and the inside. So what I want you to do is I want you to peel back one of these pinstripes just about 1.5 inches to 2 inches. We're going to rotate our tumbler so that it's at an angle. We're going to start at the top where that V-split starts, and we're going to press that pinstripe down right at the point of our tumbler. We're slowly going to peel that pinstripe off, and we're going to push with our thumb. You're going to push down your pinstripe as you lay it right over that seam. So we are pushing right over this seam here. You can see it's like very subtle, very small, probably not going to be too noticeable to anybody but you, but this is a great way to hide those imperfections and really feel like you're walking away with an amazing piece when you're done. So we're going to press, press, press. Once you get down to the bottom of the V right here, I want you to take your X-Acto knife and you are going to press right at the bottom of that V and rock back and forth, and then pull your pinstripe away, and you will be left with a perfect cut. Now we're going to turn our tumbler, and we're going to do the exact same thing on the other side. So we're going to pull this. Start at the top, overlap it with the other one so that you have a point at the top. Slowly peel back that pinstripe and lay it down right on that seam. Press, press, press. All the way down.
Beautiful.
So pretty. Once it gets to that point, again, you're going to overlap just a tiny bit. Take that X-Acto knife, put it right at the bottom there, and then you're going to rock it back and forth and pull. All right, let's take a look at our first pinstripe, guys. So you can see where we started up here at the top on that corner, right at that point, and went all the way down, and then from this point all the way down. The most important part here is to make sure that you have pressed it down so that it is stuck to the tumbler, because it is vinyl. You have to remember, at the end of the day, it's vinyl, it's gonna lift, which is why we want to seal this tumbler. We are going to seal this tumbler before it gets epoxy. Okay, so now I'm going to go to the bottom. We're gonna do the bottom part from the point here. All right, so we're gonna lay this down. Now, I will say, laying this down against Stardust is very easy because it sticks pretty well. With the glitter, you have to make sure, like I said, make sure you're getting all that excess glitter off. It's very, very important that you do. Reasons, not just for the pinstripes, but also because if you don't, when you go to seal it, you're gonna seal the glitter to the vinyl, and then you're gonna see that glitter. Now, nobody's gonna notice that but you, and to be completely honest, it's really hard to not have one single speck of glitter in your vinyl when you epoxy it. I don't think I've ever been able to achieve that. Maybe, let's see, no, there's a little piece in there. Like, it's really hard when it's handmade to be perfect, guys, okay? But you will do a fantastic job. All right, so we have that pinstripe down. We're gonna rock back and forth and pull. All right, one more pinstripe to go, and then we will be sealing our tumbler, guys. All right, so we're gonna start here at the top and lay that down right against that seam. Now remember, guys, this is going to be recorded, so if you decide to continue and do the pinstripes in between, you can definitely do that, because you will be able to go back this weekend and watch this again, pick up right where you left off. All right, bringing in that X-Acto knife, rock, and pull. All right, we're going to give this one last check to make sure that our pinstripes are down. Feels nice and snug to me. Okay, so now we are ready to seal. So what I would suggest for this part is, what I usually do is I spray it. So I'm going to have Tori go outside real quick, and she's gonna spray it for me. Yep. And then let it sit for about 20 minutes or so. It's gonna be perfect, and then we'll be good to go. Okay, so she's going to spray that. So that's what I want you guys to do, is run out really quick, or if you have a liquid adhesive that you're used to using, feel free to use that. Or you can do it tomorrow, and we can continue on with the swirl. It's totally up to you. You can always go back and revisit it. Make sure you guys tag us in these tumblers, because we're very excited to see what you do with them. Okay, so hopefully you guys will have went and sealed your tumbler, sprayed it, whatever you want to do to seal it is fine by me. I use the Rust-Oleum Clear Matte Spray, the 2X, and that works really, really well. And when I go to epoxy my tumbler, this is the tumbler that I'm going to show you to epoxy. You're going to epoxy your V-split while I do this one. Okay guys, we are about to move on to our swirl. And I know you guys are really excited about this one. I am too. This is definitely a more challenging one to do, but I have faith that you guys are going to knock it out of the park. So I see that I have some glitter on my lovely little noodle here, so I'm going to air it off so that we have a fresh start here. All right, those of you that were asking in the beginning, how do you know that you line up your tumbler? This is the most important part for you to watch, because I'm going to show you how to get that template to line up just right. Let's talk about the swirl tumbler. So there are two components to the swirl tumbler aside from your pinstriping. You have your template here, which is going to be your adhesive, and then you have your vinyl here. So what we're going to do a similar process to the V-split. We are going to do our template first. Once we have the template in place, we will remove the excess adhesive, and then we will lay our vinyl down with our transfer tape. So let's grab our tumbler. And you're going to grab your next template right here. Now, when we're looking at our template, you want to make sure that it's in the direction that you want it to go in. The way that I look at it, that I can tell you, is if you look in the top left corner here, you're going to see a music note that's right side up. That's how you know that it's going to be right side up. So we want that right side up to be this way on the tumbler. So the opening is here, and this right side up right here is going to be right here. So you're going to see that swirl kind of come to life that way. So what we're going to do now, we know that this is the direction that we're going to go. We are going to make our slit with our scissors here. So we're going to take our weeding tool and we're going to pull up this corner just like this. Make a little seam here. We're going to grab our scissors and we're going to cut, try not to touch the adhesive part. We're just going to gently cut all the way across until we get to the edge, and we're going to leave just a teeny tiny bit connected, and then we're going to lay this right back down where we found it. So this is how we're going to get our tumbler lined up and get it to stay lined up as we move it all the way around. So the only thing you have to do to prep your tumbler, and you can do this right before you epoxy it, is you're going to remove this little tiny sticker at the bottom. This is really all that I do to prep my tumblers, just remove this little tiny sticker. So you can do that now if you want to, or you can do it right before you resin it. It's completely up to you guys. But since we're using adhesive on the entire thing and vinyl, we don't really need to do any other prepping. So these are actually Resin Rockers tumblers. We have the difference between like a typical 20 ounce and ours are, they have this really nice flat squared off bottom that is different from most tumblers. Most of them have a little curvature here, but the reason that I really like these tumblers is because it's really easy to line up a template. It's really easy to line up a template, and it's really easy to line up your vinyl because it is a straight edge. It's not curved here. Okay, so we are having our opening on the left side. So I'll try to make this simple for you guys. So we have our template or our opening on the left side here. So if we're looking at our swirl, you have one cut that's going to go up this direction right here. Right in that corner, you're going to see a music note, okay? If you turn the template to the right, that music note is right side up, okay? So that music note in that top left corner is right side up. We're going to take that and we're going to flip it this way, and that's how we're going to apply it to our tumbler. Okay, so we have our cut right here. We've cut our backing here. We're going to take our template and wrap it all the way around our tumbler. And we're going to line up our template and we're going to center it. So we're going to center it, make sure those seams match up. And remember, you're going to push, 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 push. You're going to push and put that seam together so that it matches perfect. And you want to look at the top and you want to look at the bottom. So if you have it lined up and those seams are matching, they're meeting it perfect in the middle, they're lining up perfect on the left, perfect on the right. Now what we want to do is we want to keep that pressure. We're going to keep that pressure right in the middle of that tumbler. We're going to peel back this blue film that we pre-cut. While we're still holding that pressure, do not let up on that pressure. You're going to peel that off and you're going to go with your forefingers and you're going to press forward all the way, holding that pressure, and you're going to move your thumb holding that pressure and push that down, that seam that you just made. You're going to go all the way across. And that's how you know that it's going to be lined up right. All right, so now we're going to unravel that. Turn this over. We're going to pull this blue film up and we're going to slowly work it into the tumbler, the template. So pull the blue film up and you're going to take your thumbs and you're going to go up and over, up and over. Very, very high pressure, guys. And just make sure you're only doing a little at a time. Remember, slow and steady wins the race, guys. This is not a race. This is the hardest part of this process, is getting this to line up. So make sure you're starting from the middle and moving left to right. And that's where this noodle cuff is just like our best friend, because we're going to use it so we can apply pressure here. Now I'm going very slow. You guys will get very quick at this. But take your time when you are first starting out. When you are just starting, it is important to take your time. Okay, so now I'm going to meet the middle here. And you can see that my seam meets perfect. And it's even all the way around the tumbler, which is exactly what we want. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to look at our swirl. So remember, the right side up here, we started here. This is where our swirl vinyl is going to go, right here. So when you're looking at your vinyl, you can see that this is right side up. So we want to line it up this way. So when you're putting your swirl on, this curved edge or this slanted edge right here is actually going to be turned a little bit in, because you'll see that the swirl, that's why it's called a swirl, is actually going to swirl around your template like this. So it's going to go around your template like this. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing we did with the V-split. We're going to remove this big portion where our vinyl is going to go, and then we are going to cut that adhesive and pull it out. So go ahead and take your weeding tool, and this is all while your V-split is drying, which is awesome. So we're going to do one side at a time to make it a little bit easier on you guys. So go ahead, pull that big portion off, and then we're going to take our X-Acto knife And we're gonna run it right along the line where the adhesive meets the rest of the template. And just take your time. The reason I do half at once is so that this doesn't keep sticking to the noodle, because it will stick to the noodle the entire time you're trying to do this and it's going to drive you crazy. So the less that it does that, the easier it's going to be for you. Now this one is not as hard as the V-split because you're only having to do, since the seam is here, you're only having to really peel up a couple edges and it's easy. So we're going to take our X-Acto knife, we're going to go in from the top, and we're going to peel back that adhesive. We're going to grab it. And then you are going to peel. You're going to peel it off. This is where I test my eyes to see if I really need those readers.
Yeah, come on.
I have one little troublemaker here. Perfect. All right, so now you're left with this lovely gloss. And now we're going to do the other side, exactly the same way. So we're gonna grab our weeding tool, we're gonna peel back that big part. We're gonna take it off. And just be careful so that it does not take off and it does not lift part of the rest of your tumbler template, because you're gonna need that. So if you notice that it's lifting, I want you to lay it back down, and I want you to take your X-Acto knife and I want you to slice it at the top, because we don't want this to lift, otherwise it's going to be really hard to get your glitter colors separated there. So just be careful. Make sure that all those pieces stay down. This side of the tumbler has a lot of little pieces, so you just want to be careful. Okay. Phew, got them all to stay on. All right, so now we're going to take our X-Acto knife. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to go from the top to the bottom, following the line of that white. All right, so we're going to keep cutting. This is where your steady hand comes in handy. Everyone always asks, like, how do you have such a steady hand? The trick is the pinky. The pinky keeps me steady, guys. I use it as my anchor. If I didn't, it'd be a mess. It'd be a hot, hot mess. All right, so we're gonna peel this. And get it as close as we can. And again, very careful on this edge here. We wanna make sure that we're not lifting any of those pieces. We want them to be fully intact. All right. We are very close, guys. Boom. Okay. So now that we have our clear spot here, it's very plain to see where our vinyl will lay. So we have our template in the middle here, and then we are going to have the vinyl that swirls into the middle here, like you guys can see here. So we are going to work with our vinyl just like we did with the V-split, where we put the transfer tape on it. If you feel comfortable doing it without the transfer tape, that's totally fine. It really is up to you guys and what your comfort level is. It just comes down to your comfort level. So making sure this is right side up, you'll be able to see your music notes on the left are right side up. We're going to make sure that our music notes here are right side up. That way the template is cohesive with the actual design. So this edge here is what is going to go at the top of our tumbler. So it's going to swirl around like this. So when you're applying it, just like we did with the V-split, we wanted to make sure that this line here lines up with the template portion. We're going to do the exact same thing with this piece. So what I usually do is I will trim a little piece of this up, or you can use your weeding tool if you want, and take this top part off, because then it's going to make it easier for me to see. So we're going to take the top part of the vinyl off, the part around the actual vinyl. And then what we're going to do is we are going to look at our tumbler, see where we're going to line this up. So we already know that this line here is what we need to match up against the tumbler template. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut along here. I'm just going to put a little slit here so I know where I'm going to be cutting my transfer tape. I'm going to lay my transfer tape down. All right, and we're going to go right up against the edge, because remember, we're going to trim that off. We're going to trim that piece off. So we're going to lay this down, and then we're going to burnish it in. And then we're going to trim this. Thank you. Okay, so let's bring our tumbler back over. And like I said, with the transfer tape, because it's opaque, it's really hard to see through it. And we want to be able to use our eyes here when we're lining this up. This is going to go this way. So what I'm going to do is when we pull this off, we're going to cut this across here so that it's a seamless line. So you can either cut it with the transfer tape if you want, or you can go right along that little slit that you cut there. And you're going to cut right along that line so that you know where to cut it. So I'll show you both ways actually. Just like that. And then you can see it's a nice clean line. Like that. So this is really hard to see through to see the template. So that's why we need to make sure that this is visible. I'm going to cut that extra off. Okay. So now that we have that line here, I'm gonna put my tumbler up here. We're gonna check for any extra adhesive. Remember at the top, I always, for some reason, have a little bit of adhesive right there, and you wanna go ahead and clean that up. A little bit of alcohol. Take that off. I have a little tiny bit at the bottom too. Okay, now we are going to line this up. Remember, right side up, right side up. So we're going to start here just like we did with our V-split. And we're going to line it up right at that edge. And we're going to follow the line. We're going to follow the line of the vinyl all the way down the template. And if you notice, like as I'm pulling, if you notice that it's straying, remember what I said to do. Pull it up and do it again. And you're going to do this a few times until you get it lined up just the way that you want it. All right. So now we got a good start here. I'm going to peel this side up just a little bit so I can make sure I don't have any air bubbles. We don't want any air bubbles because let me tell you how not fun that is once you get epoxy on here. It's not fun. Ah. So once you guys get this on, you can reposition it if you need to. So if it's not going on as planned, pull up like this and just lay it back down. That's the beauty of the transfer tape. It will help you every step of the way with not having your bubbles, not having any of that, those imperfections that you're worried about. Make sure there's no bubbles on both sides. I love this pattern too. It's so pretty. Okay. Sweet. All right, so now I'm gonna peel this back just a little bit. All right, so we're gonna pull this back. Perfection. All right, guys, so now that you have the vinyl up against the template, so this is where I told you I would get you to this point. Remember, I told you I would get you to this point because this is the most important part, the hardest part of the entire process. So now you've got your vinyl, you've got your template, you're gonna follow the same exact process. You're going to use your weeding tool, and I'm gonna tell you the order at which I did my tumbler so that you know which pieces to weed first, because let me tell you, these are very tedious, they're very small, and I did it a couple different ways to experiment just to see which way was the easiest. So first thing that I did are the lines. So the lines all the way across in between all of the little music notes, that was the first place that I weeded. And I dusted right after I weeded it with blackout Stardust. So I used Stardust on this because it was a fine line, fine detail, very easy to use with the brush. I did use the smaller brushes. We have 3 sizes of brushes. These are the 2 smaller brushes, so I recommend getting these because they really will help out a lot with the smaller lines. So that's what I used for that. Then right after that, I did the music notes. Now I did my music notes 2-tone. You can do all the same, you can do them all different. I would love to see somebody do like all different colors. That would be so cool. But I used Danger Zone on these music notes here. which is in your kit. And I also used pink roses on the rest of the music notes in your kit. So you can see that I did just a variety there. So that was all Stardust. Now when I got down to the end and you peel everything off, and I did this background right here, I actually did the background with glitter. You can do it with Stardust if you want to, but I just decided to do glitter because it was faster. And I used Pearl River for that, which is a really nice microfine. And you can see it gives that really cool, reflective, iridescent look to it. Now I did work that glitter in. I did not just brush it on. You can see there's no texture there, none. So it did take me a little bit longer to do that process, but you're just essentially putting on the glitter and then you're working it in with your finger until you get this nice smooth look. Okay, so now what I want you to do is I want you to grab your turner, have that ready. We're gonna mix up our epoxy, and this is the quickest process of this whole entire class. So we are at the end, guys. So if you made it this far, congratulations. So you are going to grab your other tumbler that you sealed. It should be dry by now. It should be totally good. If you notice that it's still a little tacky, it's still a little wet, I would recommend waiting for this and revisiting the video tomorrow. That way you can make sure that you're not going to have any repelling or any issues like that. So I'm going to do this tumbler while you guys are working on your V-split. And I'm going to take you through the process of mixing and applying your resin.
I've got a quick question from one of our YouTube viewers. She would like to know if we need to worry about stretching vinyl if we pull too hard, or if it's placed. Like if you have to replace
Yes,
it.
that's a great question. That is such a great question. So I would highly recommend going very slow. You're gonna wanna go very slow when you're removing it, and make sure that you don't have too much down because it will stretch. Now there is an easy hack if it does stretch. Let me see if I have one that I can show you guys that I've done that has a little bit extra from, okay, here's a good example. Okay, so as you can see, this one, I had a couple bubbles, a couple air bubbles in here that I had to get out, so I pulled the corner back, and then I just used my little squeegee tool to get it back up, which stretched it a little bit, so you can see how it's not even right there, which is fine. All you have to do is you can use your fabric cutting tool that I showed you guys with the razor blade, or you can use your X-Acto knife and you can just cut the vinyl right there to match the rest of the vinyl. Super easy fix. No one's gonna know, no one's gonna notice. It's not gonna make any difference at all. It's just gonna make sure that you have a nice clean line at the top. So now what we're gonna do is I want you to go ahead, if you choose to use a mask, go ahead and put that on. Make sure you have nitrile gloves and make sure they are clean because we do not want to put anything that is not clean on our tumbler. If you notice, one thing I do want to address, if you notice that your pinstripes are lifting after you have sealed it. So let's say you've sealed it and it is lifting at the top here. What I want you to do, there's a couple things you can do. What I typically do is UV resin. That works for me every single time. It's completely foolproof. So you can use skim coat, you can use regular UV resin, but what you do is just put a tiny little bead on your glove, and then you're gonna push it down just enough to coat the top to keep that pinstripe down. And I actually will do it for you guys just to show you how it works. So we're gonna use a finger cut because it's the quickest and easiest way. And like I said, either formula works, doesn't matter. You can do regular, you can do skim coat. So we're just gonna take the tiniest bit of UV resin. And the reason this is so good is because it is instant. It is an instant fix. And we're just gonna tap it right on top of that pinstripe. And what that's gonna do is it's gonna prevent it from lifting anymore, and it's gonna keep it down. We're gonna take our pocket lamp and we're gonna cure this for about 10 seconds. There's a 10-second timer on this pocket lamp. and that is plenty of time to cure it. This pocket lamp will cure everything so fast. If you guys are working on zipper tumblers or you're working on fabric tumblers and you're like putting your seams on, putting your zippers on, use the UV resin, use the pocket lamp, you're gonna be golden. So now I'm gonna go ahead and put my gloves on, and we are going to measure and mix our epoxy and go ahead and put it on the tumbler. So you should have some little mixing cups and a stirring stick. So go ahead and get one of those cups out, and you'll notice that it has tick marks on it. And I usually use about 10 mLs for my tumblers. That's usually all it takes for a 20-ounce skinny. I'm going to have you do just above that. We're gonna do just a little bit more because I do want you to have a little extra in case you're a heavy pourer. We're going to do A first. So we're gonna take our part A, we're gonna open that up. You're going to remove the seal, and you are going to pour just above the 5. And then we're gonna get our B, and we're gonna do the exact same thing. So we're gonna grab our B. Now this is our perfect finish formula. This is going to be your 24-hour cure. And the reason that we included this in the kits and not the fast finish is because we wanted to make sure that you guys had enough time to mess with it, make changes, adjust things. You know, take your time with it because beginners, this is what I recommend with beginners. So now we're gonna go ahead and pour in our B, and we're gonna do the exact same amount. So you're gonna be sitting at about 12-ish mLs. All right, so now we're going to stir this for at least a minute and mix it up. We're gonna make sure that we're scraping the sides really, really well. One other thing, if you really enjoyed doing this and you're interested in looking at the other classes that we already have accessible on YouTube, you can check out our pen creation class. That's a really fun class, and we do still have kits available that we keep in stock for people that watch that class. You will learn many things when it comes to pen making. You'll learn how to do a glitter pen, a snow globe pen. You'll learn how to do a wrap on a pen, and you're also going to learn how to do a template just like we did on these tumblers tonight. So check that out if you haven't already, because that is a great next class if you enjoyed doing what we're doing tonight. Okay, so looking at our epoxy, we've got it nice and mixed up. You're going to see bubbles, but don't worry because those bubbles are going to disappear as soon as you get it on this tumbler. Now, the really good thing about this epoxy is that it is nice and thick. So a little bit goes a long way, and it's super easy to work with, and people just really love it. They love it. Okay, so I'm going to make sure that my turner is going the other way because I like it to go away from me when I'm applying my epoxy. So again, check your gloves, make sure you don't have any glitter or anything on them because whatever is on your gloves is going to be on your tumbler. So that's why I love wearing my apron. It is made of canvas, so it really does a good job at getting anything extra off of those gloves before you start messing with this tumbler. So I have nice clean gloves. All right, so we are going to start from the top here, and we are going to just put a little bit of epoxy. We're going to pour, and we're just going to use our gloves to do the work. So we're going to let our gloves kind of guide the epoxy onto the tumbler. And this is the cool part, guys, because you're going to see how a matte tumbler comes to life and what that glitter actually looks like once it has epoxy on it, because it changes the look completely. It looks so cool once you get the epoxy on. So we're just gonna glide along here. We're gonna move down. No, we actually we don't need any alcohol. We use heat on our epoxy once we get it applied. I usually just do one pass with a torch. I walk away for about 10 minutes and then I go back and check it, and I will give it one more pass of heat in the spots that may have a bubble that has worked its way to the surface. But other than that, you really don't need to do anything. In fact, I find that when you do use alcohol, that it actually creates more fish eyes. And that is because it dilutes the resin. It will dilute it, and it makes it really hard to recover from those. So I highly recommend trying to steer clear of any alcohol. So now we're going to just kind of work our way down our tumbler. I usually kind of go across my pinstripes with a little bit of pressure, just to make sure that they are staying put, and then I'm not trying to shift them in any way. I don't want them to lift in any way. Once you feel like you have a really good coat on the top, we're gonna work it down to the bottom. Remember guys, a little bit goes a long way. So you do not want a thick coat on this tumbler. You want very minimal. A lot of people ask, you know, if they find that they have surface bubbles, it's because you have applied your epoxy too thick. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and add some heat. So we're gonna do one pass, guys, to get rid of any surface bubbles. And you'll see how they literally just disappear. I will do 2 coats. I will typically do 2 coats. Now, if you do 2 coats and you notice that there's an imperfection in your tumbler, or your pinstripes are a little bit too high, or you have some kind of issue that you're not happy with, you can easily just buff it down and do another coat. So that's the nice thing, is you're never stuck. You can always add more resin to fix any imperfections. This tumbler in particular is 2 coats. So you can see there's no lifting of any of the pinstripes. Everything is nice and seamless, beautiful shine. And then again, this was only 2 coats, no bubbles, nothing. So very, very forgiving, very nice to work with. And 2 coats is usually plenty, but if you happen to do 3, that's okay. Then you can use our V-split tool to cut the vinyl that they provide for you, and you can glitter the rest of the tumbler. So if you want to make something that's a little bit easier, this the V-split tool is really nice because the inside is actually traceable for a 20-ounce skinny, and the outside is traceable for a 30-ounce skinny. So it's perfect if you're wanting to do either one. You can trace and cut out your perfect V-split to go from top to bottom, and you can do it on any vinyl that you want. So that's one really cool tool that I'll show you guys. We also have a straight edge tool, which is really handy to use, especially if you are measuring your vinyl or where your split is going to end. It lines up on the top of your tumbler so that you get an even and level cut every time. And last but not least, when I clean up my tumblers, I always clean the top of the rim. This is the #1 question I get. How do you clean the rim of your tumbler? And this is what I do to clean the rims of my tumbler. I use a deburring tool because it has this rotating top. And I put it on the top, and I use it like a potato peeler, and I will go along. I won't do it right now because I don't want to get it in there, but I'll go along the tops of all my tumblers, and it will get rid of any excess epoxy on top. All right, guys, well, that concludes our class. I hope you had fun. I had a blast. You guys enjoy the rest of your night, and we'll see you back with another fun resin art tutorial next week.